Hello, my name is Peter Parfitt. Welcome to New Brit Workshop. This is the Festool Mobile Workshop 1000, the MW1000. And behind me, I've got all of the components that are used to make up the full MW1000. But the basic kit consists of all these items except the extension table. Now, Festool have got a really good video that shows how to assemble all this kit, but I'm going to do it as well in front of the camera, and I'll try and point out any little ambiguities from their instructions or whatever. I'm sure there are none. Now, this axle has on it two very thin washers. You must make sure that those washers are right, one at each end, are right at the ends there, so that they're going to do their job of stopping the plastic part of the wheel from rubbing against the plastic part of the frame. If you have any problems, it may be because it's very cold, then just make sure it's warmed up. Put it near a radiator or something so that the plastic is warmed up a little bit before you push that in. Now we're going to now take these two pieces of aluminium extrusion and we're going to fit them down into the base. Now if you look at these carefully, you'll see they each have a little bracket on the side and a strap. That goes on the outside, and there's a little scale down here that goes towards the front as you see it now. And it goes in quite simply. Just line it up like so, and that's that in place. Now, in order to fit the small table top into place, we've got to loosen off some screws. And if you look at this bracket, you'll see there's a plate on the back there, and you'll see the threads of two screws sticking out from it. What you've got to do is to take a hex screwdriver and loosen off the two screws so that that plate comes a little bit away from the actual bracket. That plate is going to sit down into a channel, one on this side and one on the other side, and then we're going to tighten those screws up in order for the small worktop to be held firmly onto those two extrusions. And you can now see that little plate is now separate from the bracket, and that will fit down inside that part of the extrusion. And as you see, that then fits down nicely. And with the top firmly down into those extrusions, I'm just going to tighten up the four screws. And those are nice and tight. And now the next job is to now take this as a complete entity, rest it on its top so it's upside down, and we're now going to put in these four cap screws to firmly hold the plastic base on those extrusions. That's that. Those are quite stiff to do, so I use my little ratchet to help me do that. Now in order to fit the handle, we need to find these two little gadgets. They've got a hole through the middle, and also two screws. These are the gadgets which act as bearings. They go in from the inside through the holes at the bottom there. One's through there and one's going through here like so. Now in order to fit this, you'll notice on this plated area here there is a hole between these two screws, and inside there you can see a threaded piece. And that threaded piece is actually joined onto the plate that we tightened up with these two screws earlier on. So we're now going to carefully introduce this so that that little bearing part that we pushed into here earlier is now fitted into the orifice in this plate, and it's sitting there quite nicely because there's a bit of spring tension in the handle, and we can now put the screw through here and then tighten that up. So that one. So I've tightened these both up so they're not ridiculously tight, but they're certainly secure. Now you can have this handle in any one of four positions. The handle could be all the way down there out of the way, and as you bring it up, so the plunger end that's attached to this is guided, so you don't need to pull it out yourself. It would click in to the first position, and then there are two more positions, and the final one is vertical. So you can have this at one of three fixed positions, or just drop down below. And that's so that you can move this around in a way that suits you. Now the next task is to assemble the drawer unit. If you pull the runners out so they're all the way at the back, there's a little lever here. If you press down on there, that allows that runner to come off. And on the other side, you probably press upwards. If I remember rightly, press upwards, that's it. So down on one side, upwards on the other. And that allows these two pieces to come away. We're now going to join the drawer slides onto these components. You look for this shape cut out and the larger hole there, and then you look at this part and it's the first hole that you come across. Those two need to be lined up. And we're going to put a screw in there. I'm just going to put it in just loosely to start with. And then the second screw hole is here. Now I've slid this along, there's a little window in here, and so you can then see there's the second screw hole. So I'm going to put that screw in there. Once you've found the first one, the other one is going to automatically be in the right place. That's one. We'll do the same with the other. Now at first glance this piece actually looks symmetrical because you've got a hole there and a hole there and so on, and that's just sitting there. But actually it's not quite, because if you look at the other side you've got the word Festool. And what we don't want to do is have this upside down when it's in situ. So I've got that one the right way up, this one the right way up, and so the bottom now is on the inside of those two. We're now going to use two of these metal cross pieces and a couple of screws, and we're going to fix them in such a way that we form a section like this. And again, it's a question of finding the correct screw holes, and these are indicated quite clearly in the diagram. So there's the first one there. I'm going to place that in, and then in that goes. Now you do need to note that there's a notch in here and a notch in the other one. Those two have got to go across like so. Now I'm just going to check those screws now and make sure they're nicely done up. Now when fitting this piece, it's important not to just line up the hole, but can you see this little bit that sticks out here? So like a little tongue. That has to fit into the end, the lower end of this slide on that side. So you push it in. I had to push quite hard to get mine to go, and you may have to as well. But once it's in there, it's obvious it's in the right place. And that gets screwed on. And then all we have to do is to insert the drawer. Now I find it's easier to get one end located first in the slide and then get the other end going. So we've got both ends started, then push back. You can turn it over to do this now. And that's it, fully in place. Now in order to fit the tray, you need to pull out these two tabs here. Then offer it up to the unit, push, and then clamp, and that's it, firmly locked in place. There are adjusters in here. There's a little wheel here, and that's an adjustment wheel to get it into various degrees of tightness. And if you feel that once you've let go of that, it's not quite secure enough, then you can adjust the little wheel to get it sitting just that much more tightly. But anyway, that is really, really good. That's as solid as a rock. Now, I should have pointed out that underneath at the base, there is an adjustment foot here, should you be on ground which is not quite level. Now, I hate it when I have bits left over after assembling something. We've got these bits. Actually, they're dead simple. So there's that part there, and it goes round that part of the extrusion, and you just press. And when you want to remove it, just pull it away, like so. And now when we put a larger sustainer in here, so when it's back in there, it's supported at the rear from side to side by those plastic pieces. Well, now we've got our mobile workshop set up, we now need to populate it with some tools. Now, not long ago I made a video about the Sys Mini 3 and putting inserts into it. And at the same time I bought a Sys Mini 1. And I did show in one of my workshop notes videos that you can get a CSX in there and its bits and pieces with no problem at all. And the reason I bought this was because down here you have a place which will take a Sys Mini 1. Now I've moved the shelf up a little bit so that I can put my next sustainer in, and this is one that holds a variety of tools. And I can now put away one of the tools I was using earlier on. Now it goes safely away, and when it's back in that position, that's locked in tight. And I'm now going to put my router in there, and I'll follow that with my extractor. So I'm now ready to go to the job site. Now this is still the basic mobile workshop. You can get the optional large table, and it's very simple. It's a table with a leg at one end. And the idea is that you would raise the leg, click it into place. Now the way to fit it is very simple. You lift and then lower it down, and that then grips at this point. So those two are attached. So that is now the mobile workshop complete. Now there's another trick. I've got my MFT3 sitting here. I raise this up, take this off here, and I can then lower that down onto the MFT3, and lo and behold, I've got an extension table for my MFT3. So by adding the large table to the basic mobile workshop, you end up with something which gives you two advantages. And we can remove it from there, lower the legs. And then for the mobile situation, we can put the large table into the cart. And the idea is that it clips in at the bottom. You may have heard it click in, and that actually will not come out now. That's held very firmly. But there is the additional strap here, which we can fit in place. And now we're good to go to the van, and then from the van to the job site. Now, in order to remove the table, it needs the space to come back this way. So you lower this down, and then undo the strap, and let it come forward, and just lift. Now, the advantage of the large table is, of course, on the job site, it's giving you a lot more work surface to work on. But then you can also use it with your MFT3 as I've shown. So it's got a dual function. And I know someone's bound to ask, there's my straight edge, and that is as flat as my workshop floor allows. Now, I first saw the mobile workshop at the Axminster Open day. And as soon as I saw it, I thought, right, I've got to get hold of one of these to demonstrate it to you. And so I wrote off an email to Festool UK saying, please could you let me borrow one? And it's taken until now to get one because they're very popular. And I went round shortly after going to the Axminster show to a friend of mine, and I said, look, guess what I've just seen? I've seen this mobile workshop from Festool. He said, yeah, I've got one. And I have to tell you, if you accept what it is as a mobile solution, and it's not going to be your fixed anchor bench that you're going to do hand planing on and so on, if you accept it for what it is absolutely super. And the reason it's so good, it gives you so many jig holding, work holding options, and it allows you to have that extra bit of space on the job site, far away from base, and it allows you to do more work than you could have done on your knees on the floor. Now you have to accept that you're going to get a little bit of wobble. If you want to stand there doing this all day, then fine. But actually, as you would have seen when I cut that domino slot in there, when you're working on something, it's not an issue. And incidentally, the tools that you've seen me using are working with the extractor, which is part of the stack just there. The actual assembly worked fine. I've pointed out those areas where you've just got to take that extra bit of care just to make sure, like those washers and things like that. But it's really easy. Now, I think where this really does come into its own is the ability to have sustainers with various tools in, like I've demonstrated here. And I think what I'd like to do is to have several of these draw units, maybe at least another one anyway, so that you've got a couple of small sustainers with various tools in, things you use all the time, like all your clamps, your screwdrivers, and things like that. I think having a small extractor in the stack is quite a good idea, but that is something which can be wheeled around on its own, so maybe it's a bit of a luxury having one in the stack here. But you shouldn't think that, oh, well, I've got to be able to take every single tool in this. Of course, there'll be some that you have to take in separately. Now, Festool created the mobile workshop to complement the MFT3, but I think that many people who work on site might consider consider this to be a better option than the MW3 itself. That remains to be seen. But go and have a look at one. Don't take my word for it about how good it all comes together. Go and look at one at a show, or go to your dealer and get hold of one, shake it around and just see whether it is exactly what you need. And I suspect if this was 8 years ago, I might have got this instead of my MFG3. It's a good bit of kit. Thank you very much for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.